Hi, Bernadeta. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm in Warsaw and we have 7 p.m. now. We had a really hot day today, a lot
Uh,
of sun, and that was great.
Yeah, break from a nice, maybe early preview of spring for you all, huh?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining the Global Catholic Climate Movement podcast. A real pleasure. I think you're our first guest from Poland, so a real pleasure to have you on, of course. And I think our audience will really enjoy hearing from you and the perspective you have. Um, First, you just finished or you're about to defend your PhD, right?
Yeah.
What did you study and what made you want to study that and just talk about where you are kind of at professionally?
I'm economist and I was studying environmental economics. My PhD dissertation is about preferences for demand side management in Polish households. So I was analyzing the preferences for electricity contracts. That that is what interests me in environmental economics, the management of electricity, how to encourage people to change habits, to shift electricity consumption, to manage the demand so that we can provide the exact amount of electricity. And I think it's the base for all the country, for the economy, but also for our everyday habits.
And why does that interest you? Why does managing electricity interest you?
Because electricity is a specific good. It's a good that we cannot store for a long time. Everyone buys electricity and we cannot see it. We don't realize when we consume electricity, and so we don't know how much exactly we consume. So that's all. That is what make electricity special and also interesting to study. And of course, we cannot imagine living without energy now.
hmm
So it's very important to know how to manage, how to balance the electricity system, how to provide the amount required.
hmm And this all comes from, obviously, comes from your faith background. That's what kind of drives you to want to care for creation, or
That's an interesting question. I don't know, because as long as I can remember, I was always interested about environment, how we can solve the problems that we are facing. Maybe it is something that God gives me, so it is connected with a faith. But um, I I don't know how to answer. Yeah.
Interesting. So you always remember being interested in the environment then.
For me, it's obvious. Yeah, it's the thing that we should be interested in.
Even when you were like a little girl, you were interested in the environment and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
I
And then
was brought up in a village and I was always close to the nature.
fantastic, yeah. And then you were raised Catholic as well, right?
Yeah.
And then how, and you're involved with GCCM now, GCCM in Poland. Um, what was your like faith upbringing like, and what made you want to kind of I mean, you're almost kind of merging these fields, I guess. Your professional, kind of your secular, like electricity demand management, but then you're also
Mhm.
interested in it from the creation perspective. So what kind of kept you going on your faith journey to where you've gotten this point? Like your parents really instilled that in you, your faith, or how did that come about when you were growing up and now?
Okay. So I met some people from GCCM in 2019. And when we were talking about the environment, the problems, and how we can solve them, how we can act together, I realized that this is the group that I was looking for, because in the science, in my university, of course, we have the same values. We can talk, we can examine and analyze some data, some problems. But if it comes to the faith, I didn't see the connection. I didn't see that people can understand my perspective, my motivation, my optimism to act, to do something. Yeah, and when I met GCCM group in 2010, I was very, very happy, and I'm also grateful that they shown me encyclical Laudato Si. They were talking about what Pope told about the climate change, about how we Catholics are responsible for that. This is what I was looking for. The group that with it I can identify myself, I can work together, and that's it.
And what do you mean by, can you elaborate on kind of that? This is the group I was looking for. Like for a while, you had been kind of thinking like, I have this science, I'm in the science field, but I also have this strong faith. So had you been looking for kind of a way to combine those, or kind of, to find those answers together, or where were you at kind of, you know what I mean? What were you kind of, where were you at in your life?
Uh, for me, science is something about telling the truth, about looking for the reasons, looking for the solutions. But sometimes it can be separated from values, because as a scientist, I don't want to tell people what they should do, how they can react, what is good or what is bad. I'm just telling the fact, yeah. As a scientist, I just explaining some things. I can educate, of course, but I was looking for something more. I know that the science is not enough to make people react in a good way, to make people think, to make people understand, and motivate them to change, uh, to convert. So the science is, for me, science is something interesting. It's my job, my work, but we need something more. We need to talk about ethics, about our faith, about motivation, about values.
And did you said that you need something more to kind of motivate people, right? Like science alone, the facts alone don't do it. Why did you learn that then through your work or in trying to do that, or how did you come across that pearl of wisdom, I guess? I mean, because it is very true. Like there is more than just facts and things to really reach people as well. How did you come about that? How did you learn that?
It's my point of view. Yeah, I cannot generalize this all these things. It's just my point of view. So for me, it was not enough. Uh, Talking to people, educate them. Yeah, it's okay, but we cannot talk only about facts. From my point of view, it's more important to talk about values, to talk about motivation, to show people what is the the God vision of creation, the commandments, our responsibility, uh, the values. Yeah, all these things work together. We cannot separate science from our faith, from our society. So this is. I was just looking for more holistic vision of climate change mitigation, more holistic, and also I think I just needed more interaction with people to just to work together, yeah, to encourage people to work together, not in isolation. So something the oh maybe I will just finish this.
No, gotcha. So
I
it's
don't want to. I don't want to tell too bad about science because it's not like that.
yeah, no, that's a good point. It's not science versus faith. They're not,
Yeah,
they're not buddy
they should work
heads.
together, of course.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to figure out, is there an example you can think of in which, you were trying to talk to people? Were you trying to talk to people? I guess this is all kind of framed around the climate crisis and the ecological crisis, climate emergency, and how getting people to take action. So had you been talking to people about, hey, this is what's happening, this is why we need to act now, and then people were kind of it wasn't really motivating them, and then once you came across GCCM and let out to sea, then you kind of thought, okay, this is how, like, is there an example that comes to mind? I'm just trying to like better understand.
Of course,
Yeah.
I have a lot of examples like
Perfect.
that. So
Yeah, share, please.
it doesn't matter what you are telling. It's also important how you talk to people, how you explain them the problem. And what I learned now is that the best thing we can do is to listen to people, to ask them about their values, their motivation, what they are thinking about climate change, if they heard about that or not, if they are worried or not. And then, if we understand the other people's perspective, we can start to talk, to discuss, not to be so uh, pushing and mm, not to make people feel guilty, yeah, because if they feel guilty, they probably they close and they started mm, they tried not to think about the problem.
Yeah, it can feel overwhelmed, or just admonish, just kind of, oh, I don't want to work with you, you're kind of looking down upon me or something like that. No one wants to be talked to like that, obviously. um Really interesting. So how do you approach the topic now then? Say you're talking to people in your local parish in Warsaw. How do you bring up the topic now?
Oh, now I'm volunteer in GCCM. I'm a Laudato Si animator, and I try to uh, act every possible way. So what I think is worth doing is talking to people, make them more conscious, explain them, but also talking with priests, because this is the thing what we can change. We can talk to priests to make a change in church, to make them uh, be aware of the problem, talk with other people. It's like a domino effect, yeah. So we can um, start from these small steps to make people more conscious. And what we also organize in Poland is small workshops in Polish parishes. So what I did, I invite people in local parish to be to participate in our workshops about climate change. We can of course pray together, talk together, but the more we are talking, the more conscious we are, and we can discuss the solutions.
How would you describe, just as kind of a way of background, how would you describe, being Catholic in Poland and like the movement to kind of care for creation and the Catholic Church in Poland? Like, how would you just give people kind of an overview?
Oh, it depends. The Catholic Church in, in, uh, Poland is, um, is how can I say, is this somehow divided. Yeah, we have some groups like old Catholics, maybe not so conscious about the climate change problem, and they don't see really the need for action. And in young groups of Catholics in Poland, the situation is much better. People are open to discuss, they want to know, they ask, then they even invite us for some workshops or events. They also want to support global Catholic climate movement. We have more and more Laudato Si animators in Poland. We organize some events in pandemic time, online events, but it's still is good to know people that have a hope and want to change, really want to make a ecological conversion in Poland.
And it's worth mentioning too, obviously Poland has some of the worst air quality in the European Union, if I'm remembering right, because just
Yeah, that's true. In Warsaw, it's terrible, really.
because of the heavy use and dependence of coal throughout the country, right?
Yeah, that is one of the reasons, but another is just the weather conditions, the traffic in Warsaw. It's a big problem.
And how do those conversations when you have those conversations with priests, because this would be helpful for everyone, how do those conversations typically go? How do you kind of approach them? And what is kind of your, I don't know, kind of your, lack of a better word, your game plan, kind of your plan when you go into those conversations, how do you approach them?
Hmm. Honestly speaking, my strategy is to talk with the priests I know, the priests that are my friend, that I know from many years, and then I started to talk like with my friend. Yeah, so I'm explaining why the topic is important, why it is important for me, that I want to talk to people, that I need support from the church. For example, one of my friends, the priest, allowed me to make a testimony of ecological conversion, and it was during the mass. Yeah, many people attend and listen to it. They started asking questions, and that is how it's going. I'm starting from the places I know, the churches I know, the priests I know, and then I just telling my story.
So start.
And every time I invite people to mm, go to GCCM events.
Of course, of course. So start with people who you think you already have a relationship, of course, and then go from there. What is kind of what is the feedback then that you get typically? I mean, how do those conversations go in a place that is as divided as you mentioned? I mean, like a lot of places all over the world, of course, but how do those conversations go?
Oh, unfortunately, in what I often see is that people have some doubts about climate change. They are not sure. They have many questions. They don't know what is true, what is not true. So this is a big potential for us because we are the people who can educate others, yes, who can explain, who can introduce Laudato Si. I think that people want to get to know the philosophy of Francis the Assisi, and they want to know Laudato Si and its message. Yeah, so they know that there is a problem, they see the problem, but they have still some questions, some doubts they want to discuss. Some of them don't agree. with the science. But my strategy is not try to encourage anyone that you are not right. Yeah, you're wrong. I prefer talking with people who are open to the discussion. Yeah.
And just have kind of more of a conversation rather than you telling them what to think, kind of.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. What what's driving you then? What keeps you going to have those conversations? Because some people might have, a couple, and if they don't go very well, then it's kind of, yeah, maybe I'll try to do something else, or work on something else. What drives you? What keeps you motivated to keep having these difficult conversations?
Oh, it's very simple. I just don't focus on the effect. I'm just doing my job, yeah, and e- even if it's not effective, it doesn't matter for me. I do what I supposed to do, and what people do, it doesn't matter for me. Of course, sometimes this is really upsetting. Yeah, the negative reactions or some arguments, but still I think it's worth doing because it's the best way to discuss with people. And even if we have negative feedback, yeah, even if someone criticize our work, who knows what happens month after our discussion, 2 months after. Maybe if this person, for example, uh, climate change denier, have a strong discussion, and who knows what happens after month or two. Maybe this person goes back home, think, reflect, maybe talk with someone else, and then started to change. Yeah, to see from another perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. It doesn't have to be right away. You're right. But why doesn't the result matter to you though? What does matter then? Like you say, you're just doing your job, but that just comes from the strong faith you have? Because I feel like other people would really want to have a list. Okay, I've talked to 10 people, 6 have said yes, 4 are on their way, something like that. Why doesn't the result matter so much to you?
That's another difficult question. Of course, the one thing is faith, and but even if uh, even if I'm not in a church, I think the problem of the environment and the creation, it's universal. Yeah, everyone is concerned, and people are really worried about what's going on with our planet. So I'm not sure if it is only a fate. It's just a thing. I think I'm supposed to do something.
You just feel like such a strong calling to do that.
It's a big. It's such a big crisis.
hmm Yeah, very interesting. And now, if you want to talk about your current project, is really interesting. So you're about to defend your PhD thesis. You're going to in the near future, but then you started working at a high school and working on these types of issues as well. There, explain that project.
Okay, last month, of course, I started a new job, but it's not a typical high school. It's ecological folk high school, and this means that this is learning by doing. So you don't have regular classes, yeah, like teacher. You don't have exams. You even don't have grades. You just practice. And the ecological falls high school I worked in is located in a small village, Grzybów, in central Poland. And it's famous because in Grzybów, uh, there was a first eco farm in Poland, introduced 30 years ago. So this is the really good location, good place to learn how to do permaculture, to do eco gardening, and so many other things, how to produce eco food. Yeah, so um, the, this is, I think it's promising to make green professions more popular in Poland.
And is this what it's a high school, like ages are what of the students there?
It's a folk high school for adults, so students can have from 18 to doesn't matter.
So kind of more in other countries, more kind of career education wise. Is you're kind of training them for a career?
Not exactly, but there are some similarities.
And the project you're working on is Laudato Si there, right?
We want to introduce some new projects, and one of them is called Laudato Si. We want to build new infrastructure for students, for food processing. For example, mm, the workshop and some kind of things.
Very good, Bernadeta. What else would be good to mention about the project, about what you're working on now? What else?
Oh, from my point of view, it's very important time for me because I'm moving out from Warsaw.
Of course.
I have been living in the city center in Warsaw, and now I'm moving to a small village. This village that the folk high school is located in. So it's a big change in my life, and I also try to change my lifestyle to get rid of things from my flat, to be more sustainable,
Mm-hmm. It's always fun.
live closer to the nature,
Yeah. That sounds lovely.
start gardening.
There we go. How big?
It's a
You have
big change.
a decent property out there then, or like size for the garden and things like that in the country, or?
Mm, I will be living near the folk high
Oh,
school
great.
in Grzebów, and they have a farm where I can help.
That's fun. That sounds excellent. Yeah.
They also produce goat cheese, eco goat cheese. They produce bread, so I can help with this.
Yeah, all the above. Fantastic. What made you want to become a Laudato Si animator?
Sorry.
What made you want to become an animator?
Hmm. As I told you, I was looking for a group of people with whom I can act. I can do something practical, something with people. So that I think it's the way that we can make a change. Just step by step, starting from small things, talking with people, acting locally, and then we can see the effects. Yeah.
Very well said. Before I let you go, Bernadetta, can you say your